Hello, everybody. Hello, lovely ladies, Laura and Janine. We have just had a really good Clubhouse session, haven't we? It's better on a Friday morning, isn't it? It's better on a Friday morning.
Yeah, and we're getting a real different variety of questions as well, which helps to keep us on our toes.
Yes, I think what I noticed today is that we were getting some really interesting, really good questions and very succinct, which I like. So less sort of salesy, promotional, people coming up to talk about their business, which is fine in our networking sessions. But the one that we do on a Friday is really specifically to help people with their marketing. So it was really good to get that. So I just thought we should cover off a couple of the questions that were coming up and sort of talk through those, because there were some really good questions coming up. Janine, was there anything that you remember that came up that you thought was a great question, or shall I remind you of some of the things that we were chatting about?
I think they're all good questions. I thought there was an interesting one where the guy was like, I'm B2B, how does that differ? Does it differ?
Brilliant. I love that because that's relevant to a lot of people. And also some people are selling B2B and B2C, aren't they? I've got clients that sell to both. So Janine, let's talk a bit about that question.
Yes. I think we all agreed. We were all in agreement that it's very similar, and the human element of marketing, and I think there's this. It indicates this general feeling that marketing's a bit unfathomable. When actually, if we strip everything back, it's simply about, right, okay, you've got something specific to sell. Who wants it? Who do you need to speak to? And help them to understand, help them towards a decision whether it's right for them or not. It's not about pushing something onto somebody. It's not about convincing. It's not about getting them to do something they don't want to do. It's about, is this right for you? You are exactly the person I expect to buy this. And there's a lot of learnings in the process of saying, okay, you don't want to buy this. I think you're perfect to buy this. Why? Is it something I've miscommunicated? Is it because you don't trust me enough yet? And that kind of very, very simple research can lead you to fix the sales process, to improve your marketing, to improve your messaging.
Yeah, we were talking, weren't we, about, and I loved the lady that joined us today. I've had a bit of a memory blank. Was it Laura or Jade?
Jade,
that was it. And she talked about the know, like, and trust, which is something that we talk about a lot. And whether you're selling to a consumer and you're selling them a product or service, or you're selling to a business and you're selling them a product or service, they need to trust that you're the right person or business to buy from. They need to be aware that you exist, and they probably are going to be doing some research. There's multiple touch points, aren't there, before we buy something from someone. So I think that know, like, and trust is so relevant, whether you're B2B or B2C. What do you think, Laura?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the key thing for me during that conversation, it's the strength of your message. Like, have you developed your message so that particular kind of segment of the industry is going to understand? Because when you're selling into B2B, the language that you use tends to be less emotive, because you're using kind of facts and figures and stats. Whereas when you're talking directly to a consumer, you want them to make a purchasing decision based on emotion and what they're feeling. So I think for me, as we were all saying on the panel, is marketing and PR is PR, regardless of who you're talking to. It's just making sure that the message that you're using is the right message to get that person to then get to know, like, and trust you, and to eventually buy from you.
Really good point, actually, that you're making there. So you're saying the messaging to consumers is going to be much more led on emotions. I know, Janine, you love messaging as well. That's one of my areas that I normally pull in experts to help, because I feel like, I'm not amazing with words, but and the messaging for corporates or businesses is much more based on what they're going to get. Hi, Ella. Ella's saying hello. She was out on a lovely walk, but great to see you here. Hi, Ella. We're just talking about B2B versus B2C marketing, which came up today in Clubhouse. So, Janine, sorry, I just interrupted you.
I think it does depend. So the guy that we were talking to during the Clubhouse, I mentioned that it's good to get clear on your different audiences if you're selling B2B. And in a big organization, you might have to speak to the gatekeeper and the decision maker and the, all that kind of thing. And it does depend, because you can end up needing to be quite emotional. If the person, I'm trying to think of a good example. Some people that you're speaking to, some of your key audiences within a big organization will be only interested in the facts and figures. How much money are you saving? How much time are you saving? But you might end up needing to be slightly more emotional, targeting other people. It depends. I'm trying to think of a good example, but I'm not.
I suppose if they are buying it based on how it makes them feel as a person, if the purchaser of whatever they're buying is going to feel more confident, for example, as a result of buying your product, then maybe they are buying on emotions. I'm just thinking about the mini MBA in marketing, and they do sell it to people, to people like me, solopreneurs, but also to people in businesses. And the businesses, and then he was saying the big reason that people are buying it is based on confidence, and that's a really good way to sell it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm misinterpreting what the word emotional, because when you're selling to a consumer, it is about it's more extremes of emotion, isn't it? Sort of fear and joy and things like that. Whereas, for instance, I had a client who was selling imposter syndrome training into big corporates, and she still had to open with quite an they've got to have that click in their gut that this is what they need. So it's that, yes, our company has these values, and if we do not help our employees with this thing, then we're doing them a disservice and we're going to lose them. And so it's that kind of emotion. And then she had to go into the rational ticks in boxes later in the process.
Yeah, I love that people are buying imposter syndrome training for their staff. I mean, what a great thing, because isn't that like one of the biggest things that everyone suffers from? And I was saying, the other day that I was suffering from imposter syndrome for quite some time, till I did the mini MBA in marketing, and everyone was like, I can't believe that you've been doing what you do for 20 years. But I think we all do, don't we? Well, I don't know what it is, but it comes up. But anyway, slight diversion off topic, but I love the fact that your client is selling that into corporates and that corporates are buying it.
Yeah, amazing. All sorts of lovely things. Diversity training obviously is quite rightly a priority at the moment, and menopause training, that's definitely coming up, isn't it? I love that as well. And just one other question, let's cover off one other question. I think the B2B B2C point was great. Essentially what we're saying is we're selling to humans. People need to know, like, and trust you. Yes, you might use different messaging. Yes, you've got a different offer, but the fundamentals are the same. And the other question that came up, which I thought was really interesting, was around digital PR. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but were you kind of saying like PR is PR? It doesn't matter if it's online or offline. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's the same argument with marketing. Like I've worked in digital marketing for 20 years, but essentially it's just marketing. And, like if you're doing marketing now and you're not doing digital marketing, then you're not doing marketing. So are we getting to a point now where we don't need to sort of differentiate between digital PR and PR, or digital marketing and marketing? And maybe we say that as a side point, because I suppose there are different digital opportunities, aren't there, for PR? But talk to me about that, the digital PR question.
It's interesting, and this is where I kind of get a little bit like, should I actually admit that I don't really know what digital PR means? But I kind of don't, because for me, the digital aspect is, so the digital is the vehicle. So the destination is always the same. The destination is you raise your profile and you share your message with your ideal audience. How you get there is still PR. You're still using the same tactics. It's just you're using online channels rather than offline. Sometimes when people refer to digital PR, they then actually want it to be more of a focus around SEO and building credibility and backlinks, for me, that falls under marketing traditionally rather than PR. And I think this just goes to show how now in 2021, the lines are more blurred than ever. So it's almost, you know, where does Janine's work stop and mine starts? Where does Emmie come into all of this with your digital? And it's, yeah, I don't really know is the answer. For me, PR is PR, whether it's online or offline. Marketing, whether it's online or offline, but this digital word just seems to have emerged from somewhere and thrown me off kilter.
Yeah, and would you differentiate in your kind of plan at all? Like, would you say PR in publications, online PR, you know, would you split it up like that? Or is it all part of the same?
And again, it comes down to what it is that the client wants and what it needs. So what are their growth goals? And then how are we gonna get them there? Now, for me, I don't kind of specialize in print. I don't specialize in online. For me, it's all getting my clients' profile raising. So, and sometimes you can pitch to, say, the Daily Mail, for example. It may not go in the paper, but it will go online. Well, that's still the Daily Mail. It's just different channels. So I tend not to focus on specific areas. For me, it's the whole, where can we go? And obviously with digital being so important, like, where do podcasts fall under? Because I kind of bring it into the PR bosom, but other people might see that as, oh, you know,
PR bosom, you're saying.
So for me, I'm almost like, right, actually, let's look at this kind of holistically from a 360-degree approach. What can I do to raise the profile of my client? Social media comes into that, marketing comes into that, but, you know, I am a publicist, I'm a PR specialist. So when, you know, it's almost like, when do you guys come in and then actually become part of my business? Like, what do I handle in-house, and then what do I outsource? It's
all a big,
it's a bit of a melting pot.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, I see PR experts who come in and help my clients, and some, you know, are doing one thing, and some are offering a whole host of additional services, awards entries, events, influencer outreach, you know, like, I suppose it also depends on the PR person. We like to keep these short and sweet, don't we, ladies? And it's Good Friday, so I reckon it's time to wrap up. Janine, if you ever want to join us on a Friday morning for our LinkedIn Live after the Clubhouse, come along. We like to have a little chat about what's gone on, you know, chew the card, as they say. And see you all next week.
Thank you.
Have a lovely weekend.